In this video, I want to share with you how you can maximize the profit from your property investing. In particular, I want to talk about how you could profit with mega HMOs. So my name is Simon Zutshi. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network, which is the largest network of property investors in the UK with 50 meetings around the country every month. I'm the author of Property Magic, the Amazon property #1 bestseller. And I've been investing in property for 25 years. And since 2003, I've been helping people like you to become more successful investors. Now, as a property investor, the whole point is we buy a property that we could rent out to someone else. Following the golden rules in Property Magic, we buy in an area of a strong rental demand, and the property must make us profit every single month. Otherwise, it's not a good investment. Now, if you're buying single-let properties, typically single-let property might make 100 to 200, maybe up to £300. So you can have single lets that do make money, but one of my favorite strategies is HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. That's where instead of renting out the whole house to maybe one person on a contract where maybe you might get, I don't know, £1,200, £1,300 rental for that property, instead you rent out the individual rooms to individual people that each have their own contract, they move in and you charge them a much higher rent. So individually, they benefit from paying one rental payment to you each month that includes all the bills. But because you've got 4, 5, 6 tenants, you might be getting £2,500 rental income. So the income might be double what you get as a single let property. Now you've got to take into account the bills. Normally it's about £100 per person per room for the bills. So in a 6-bed it might be £600. But still, if you take those off and the other costs, a good HMO should make you about £1,000 profit per month. That's the figures I like to work off. If an HMO is not making you more than £500, personally, I wouldn't do it. It's not worth it. So £500 minimum, £1,000 is about an average. But with some bigger HMOs, you can make a lot more profit. And in this video, I want to really inspire you. Maybe you're already investing in property. Maybe you've got some single lets and you're thinking about doing HMOs, or maybe you've already got HMOs, but they're making you about £1,000 a month. I want to inspire you with a couple of case studies where some of my students have gone for bigger HMOs and have made a huge amount of profit. Now, if you have bigger HMOs, a bigger value property, you might think, okay, I need a lot of money to be able to buy those. And yes, a bigger property might be a bigger deposit. But here's the thing, if you're getting a very high cash flow and a very high return on investment, it doesn't need to be your money. So first of all, let me tell you about Dr. Tim Percival. Now Tim was a GP living and working in Bristol, very, very busy. He really didn't like being a GP. He was very stressed and decided he wanted to replace his income. So he came and did some training with us, very successful, had no experience before, recognized that HMOs were going to be the fastest way for him to replace his income and his wife's income. She was also a GP, so they got a big salary to replace. So he started with some money by releasing equity from his own home, but after a few deals, he actually ran out of his own money. And that's going to happen to every investor at some point. Now, because he'd got a couple of deals under his belt, some family and friends were starting to notice what he was doing. And they were saying, okay, that's interesting, Tim, can we maybe work with you? So he started to borrow other people's money. And for this deal I'm about to tell you about, he borrowed all of the deposit money. So he didn't have to put any of his own money from his pocket into this deal. It was all other people's money. And because it was such a high return on investment, he was able to give them a good return on the money and still make plenty of money himself. So Tim, who lives in Bristol, he found a very large property. It wasn't on the market for sale. One of the strategies we teach is you can reach out to existing landlords and see if they might be interested in selling their properties. So why would they do that? Well, at some point, most landlords come to retire. They might hand their properties on to their kids, or they might just sell them. Now, this particular property, Tim went to the HMO register at the local council. He identified the owner, went online, and realized it was actually a company who owned this particular property. Now, it's just by the Clifton Suspension Bridge, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with the image in Bristol. And there are these lovely Edwardian properties, 5-story properties. And Tim thought, I'm never going to be able to afford to have one of those. But he saw a to let student sign outside a property and thought, I'm going to speak to the owner. So he sent them a letter. Now it turns out this particular owner happened to be a company based in the Midlands, and they had this one random property down in Bristol, and they'd had a board meeting recently, decided actually they're probably going to get rid of this property because it rented really, really well. But every time there's a problem, they have to send someone from the Midlands to go down to the property, and it was at least half a day just traveling. So they thought it's not a really good use of their resources. So they decided to sell. The letter from Tim came just at the right time because he got their details on the HMO register. He sent them a letter. It arrived just perfect timing, and he met up with the owner at the property. Now, he discovered when chatting to the owner that actually the owner said, oh, it rents really, really easy, very quickly. The reason was the owner was charging something like £350 rental income. Now, that's pretty good for a student property in the Midlands, which is where the company was based, but actually it was very low for Bristol. Tim knew with doing very little work to the property, he could increase the rent to 500, maybe even 550 for some of the rooms, because that was the demand for student HMOs in the area. And this is a lovely building, and it was in okay condition as well. So he decided to buy the property. He bought it for £720,000. Now you might say, God, I could never afford that. What I want you to do is stop thinking about what you can afford. If it's a good deal, there'll be plenty of profit there for you to be able to use someone else's money. It required over £200,000 deposit, money that Tim didn't have. So he borrowed that from a couple of different people. He was giving them a great return, and then he bought the property. Now this 15 bedroom HMO, he rents out, and by lifting the rents up, doing no more work to it at all, he gets £5,000 profit per month. After paying the mortgage, after paying all the bills, £5,000 profit from just one property. That's what I call a mega HMO. That is a life-changing deal. Now, it wasn't his first deal. He had done a number, he had built his confidence up, but it was just putting an extra zero on the end of the figures. £5,000 profit, what an amazing deal. Now, there was a couple of £100,000 needed, but the return on investment is a 26% return on investment, which I'm sure you would agree is a pretty good return. There's enough in it for him to give a great return to his investors and still have plenty of cash flow himself. Now, the value of the property has gone up over time. He's actually going to completely refurb the property when the next students move out, and he's been told he can increase the value by spending a couple of £100,000 on it to about 1.6 million. He's going to be able to refinance, take all of his money out, pay back the investor, have all that equity, hundreds of thousands of pounds equity. It's all entirely his, and still making £5,000 a month profit. That's the kind of big deal you want to do. Let me tell you about Charmaine. So Charmaine, based in Kent, again, an expensive area. She was looking for properties in Kent and southeast London. She was in the area looking for property. She was in a cafe with a partner at the time and overheard some students saying how difficult it was for them to find accommodation. There's a local college that really difficult to find accommodation for the students studying there. And she had a quick chat to them, established there was a good demand, did some research. By driving around the area, saw a for sale sign on the property. Now this was a very large building. She thought it's probably just a flat within that building, but in fact it was the whole building for sale. It was actually a former hotel annex. Across the road was the hotel. This was an annex, an overspill, where if the hotel was full, they'd put people here. Now, the reason for the sale, the owner was looking to retire. He had a daughter. The daughter had no interest in taking on the business, so reluctantly he was selling. He was going to sell the annex first, then the hotel. Now, this was a large building, and it didn't really have, it wasn't like a normal house. It didn't have a kitchen, it didn't have a living room. There were just individual rooms that were kind of as part of this hotel. So it wasn't really suitable for someone to take on as a home, wasn't really suitable for, for anything really. And so what Charmaine did was she wanted to try and negotiate a discount down. It was on the market for $900,000. It did need some work doing to it. It was a bit tired, but because it was such a strange property, no one was really interested in it. Now the owner was stubborn. He wouldn't take less than £900,000, and that's because he wanted to sell the property, pay the tax that was due on it, take the profit and buy 2 properties for cash, give those to his daughter. She could rent them out and get rental income coming in. So he had a figure in his mind what he wanted. He would not take a discount. Now, when Charmaine had sat down with him, built the rapport, asked great questions, found out what was really important, she realized that he wanted this income for his daughter. He didn't want to sell less. So to cut a very long story short, she arranged to do a purchase lease option. That meant she agreed to buy at the full price of £900,000, but not at the time, in 5 years' time. And in the meantime, she would take on the property, she would renovate it, she'd look after it, the guy wouldn't have to worry about it at all, and she would pay him the same amount that he would make by renting out those 2 apartments he wanted to give to his daughter. Now, why was that good for the owner? Well, first of all, this transaction could be done in a matter of weeks. Instead of him selling the property, then finding some apartments, it might be 6 months before he can get an income coming in for his daughter. This way, within a month, he was getting money coming in. Also, if he had 2 properties to rent out, there might be an occasional void period where he's got no tenants. This was a guaranteed rental income coming in every single month from Charmaine. And finally, he was getting the price he wanted, the $900,000. He didn't have to budge on his price. So it worked really well for the owner. It worked very well for Charmaine. She got this option for £1. She spent £60,000 renovating the en-suites in the rooms. Because by the way, this is a 17-bedroom en-suite property. And she now rents it out to students in the local area, and she gets £100 per room per week. £100 per room per week. So £1,700 a week coming in. With the $2,250 she's paying to the owner plus the bills, it means that she is making just over £4,000 profit every single month. £4,000 profit from this one property that she doesn't even own. She doesn't have a mortgage on it. She didn't need to put a big deposit in. So again, when you know how to use these creative strategies and you know how to solve the problem for a seller, you can get these mega HMOs and make a huge amount of profit. So I hope that's inspired you to get you thinking about, rather than doing smaller deals, why not do bigger deals? Stop limiting yourself to the size of deal you can do based on the money you have. If it's a good deal, there'll be other creative ways of funding it. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please do hit the like button if you liked it. Put any comments down. I'd love to hear your comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the little bell icon as well, because then it makes sure you'll get notification of every video as we bring them out. So until the next video, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video. And look, if you want to learn more about houses of multiple occupation and how you can really profit using them, I've got some extra online training that I'd like to give you access to. So all you have to do is click in the link in the description below the video, and you can come and register and get access to that training, which will give you far more detail and really help you save a lot of time and make some real shortcuts to make sure you're getting the next HMO property much quicker. So click on the link right now and come and register for that extra bonus training with me. In the meantime, I've also lined up another video here I think you'll find really useful. So until the next video, remember to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.